When this movie airs, Zora Neale Hurston, wherever she is gonna give a shout.
You believe that?
Hello out there in TV land. Take a look at your monitors.
Hi, I'm Destiny from As Told by Destiny. You're watching YouTube. Would Zora Neale Hurston really be shown? Today we'll be taking a deep dive into Their Eyes Were Watching God, a film that was based on a book published by Zora Neale Hurston way back in 1937. In 2005, some people, including Oprah, got their hands on it and decided to turn it into a made-for-TV movie that premiered on ABC. Now, as much fun as it would be to blame everything on Oprah, I don't think she had anything to do with the writing. She was just on the production. My first introduction into the world of Their Eyes Were Watching God was the movie. I was about 6 years old when it came out, and I don't recall the first time I saw it, but I do know that over time it got deemed as one of my favorite movies ever. I didn't know anything about it being a book till I was about in 7th or 8th grade, and I was in my era of borrowing books from school. When I took them, would they make it back to the school? Anyway, I discovered it on a bookshelf in one of my classes, and I was like, Their Eyes Were Watching God, that movie with Halle Berry in it? Oh, I gotta read this. So 12 or 13-year-old me took that book home and probably only comprehended about 30% of it, but I do recall that I comprehended enough to still like the movie better. The movie is far more comforting than the book, and as a child, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I ain't find no issues with that. Therefore, I spent most of my life feeling like the movie was underrated and feeling like it wasn't in the conversation enough, and that's what this video was originally going to be about. But then something in me kept saying, Destiny, you need to reread the book with your fully developed frontal lobe. Like you got more sense than you had when you was 12 or 13. Reread the book, see if you feel something different. Child, I did that, and that changed the whole trajectory of this video. After rereading Their Eyes Were Watching God with some sense, I have to come to terms with the fact that based on the book, when it comes to the movie, they played. Oprah sat down in front of the camera and said that Miss Zora Neale Hurston would be shouting. So that means to me that she thought what they did was a good enough representation of Zora's vision. She said that lady would be shown. Shown for what? Let's get into it. Now first, before we really get into anything, let me say that as a person who has read plenty of books and seen plenty of movies, I know that a film adaptation won't always 100% be like the book. There are things they are going to add, leave out, and dramatize for entertainment. That's why books are always better than movies. It's not the fact that Oprah and the writers who got their hands on Their Eyes Were Watching God left things out and switched them up. It's what they decided to leave out and switch up that leaves you wondering if they genuinely cared about Zora's vision, or did they just want the attention that came with having her name attached. I don't know. When everything is said and done, y'all tell me. Anyways, in place of sounding like a broken record, I won't be touching on every single difference between the book and the movie. We'll be here all day if I did that. However, we will be chatting about the major differences that I feel took away from the whole point of the story that Miss Zora Neale Hurston was trying to convey, or the story I think she was trying to convey, because at the end of the day, it's subjective. It's all about what you got out of it. Now, let's really get into it. So the movie starts off with Janie, our main character, played by the Halle Berry, walking into a town called Eatonville. Janie is barefoot in overalls, dirty as hell, looking toe up from the flow up. So instantly, of course, the first thing you're wondering is,
What's going on?
And living well. I had just come back from burying the dead.
What's going on?
Then Janie walks deeper into the town where a group of men are shocked by the sight of her.
Is that Miss Starks?
Sure enough, looks like Miss Starks looks and features.
Among that group of men, we have Terrence Howard, Sean Nelson, and that one dude from Lockdown and New Jersey Drive. One thing I can say about this movie is that the cast was casting, which I'm pretty sure is the main reason I was so hooked on it as a child. Still to this day, if you throw a group of black actors and actresses that I know and love together, the plot and production are the last things on my mind. Sign me up and give it to me quick. Don't even play. Anyways, the men started putting Janie's business all out on Front Street, honey. They started talking about how she ran off with some young dude named T-Cake, and he probably stole all her money. I mean, they on my girl neck, and they're talking loud enough for her to hear, like they don't even give a for real.
That T-Cake, he probably stole her money.
That's what happens when you run off with a young fella like TK.
Yeah. What you over here being messy for?
And it seems like everybody in their mama in Enville are concerned with Janie's business. A lady runs off her porch talking about how she's been worried sick about her, but you can tell she's faking and press on nails.
Janie? Lord, we've been worried sick about you.
Then literally not even 1 minute goes by before that same lady is back on her porch with 2 other women saying she always knew Janie would come crawling back.
Told you she come running back here, crawling back here. Yeah. What you over here being messy for?
Now, the first major difference that I feel took away from Zora's vision is the dialect. If you read the book, it's something that you would notice as soon as Halle Berry opens her mouth. Miss Zora Neale Hurston literally wrote out her character's intended diction so much to the point that when I first read the book back when I was 12 or 13, I was like, honey, what is this? Their Eyes Were Watching God wasn't a part of my curriculum. I read that book on my own time, so I didn't have anyone explaining things to me. But on my most recent read a few weeks ago, I did understand every single thing the characters was talking about with no problem. Shout out to my frontal lobe. Anywho, how the actors enunciate themselves in the movie is far from how Zora wrote it. Did they even try to bring in any dialect coaches, or did they just say it because it was a made-for-TV movie? Anyways, Janie goes into her house and everything is covered up to show that she has been gone for quite some time, roughly for about 2 years based on what you learn from the book. While Janie walks around getting reacquainted with her stuff, the people of Enville continue discussing her right outside her window.
Where's tea cake at? That's what I want to know.
Knowing you with a woman, almost 40. What you over here being messy for?
Her being back in town really got the boys and girls riled up. Then a woman named Phoebe shows up. Phoebe is played by the wife from Lincoln Heights, and she's here because she was the closest thing Janie had to a best friend before she left town. In the book, Janie describes her and Phoebe's relationship as kissing friends, which is an interesting way to put it to me, but that's just because my mind in the gutter. Anywho, Janie and Phoebe started talking and sharing some emotions and tensions they didn't share in the book. In the book, Phoebe came over and she and Janie basically talked about how the townspeople were fiending to know what happened between her and TK, to which Janie responded by saying that she really doesn't care about telling them, but if Phoebe desired to know, and since they had been kissing friends for over 20 years, she would tell her, and it's up to her if she wants to run it back to the townspeople. But to fully grasp her relationship with TK, Janie feels like Phoebe needs to hear her whole life story, and that's when we get to flashing back to Janie's life. However, in the movie, Phoebe has Janie up on some kind of pedestal. She says she looked up to Janie and then she ran off with that no count tea cake and got the audacity to come back here looking raggedy as hell, making everything she believed in look like dirt.
How could you do that?
Y'all couldn't see that.
I used to look up to you.
Janie interjects by saying her and TK had them a real love. Then she goes on about how the townspeople only ever saw her as Mrs. Mara Starks, just sitting up looking ladylike as you please. She says that may have been the Janie the town knew, but that's not the Janie she really was. Then we jump back into her life. I had to point out the differences in those scenes because it leads me to another major thing that I feel took away from Zora's vision. In the book, Janie was grounded and sensible, but as I continue to yap about this topic, you will see that in the movie they made Janie more whimsical and just a little ditzy. Why the writers decided to go that route, I don't know, but they definitely do not have her behaving how Miss Zora Neale Hurston wrote her. Anywho, we go back in time with Janie, where in her narration she states that she never knew her parents and was raised by her grandmother, who she refers to as Nanny.
You see, I ain't never known my papa or my mom. My grandmama raised me.
If you're a person who's only familiar with the movie, without the book, you'll have no idea that Janie grew up in the backyard of a white family that Nanny worked for, and they also had a hand in raising her. She hung out with the white children of that family so much that she herself thought she was white and called her own grandmother Nanny because that's what the other kids called her. Janie had no idea that she was any different until a photographer stopped by and took a picture of her and the other children. And when the picture came back, Janie didn't even recognize herself because she didn't know she was colored. Janie also talks about getting bullied at school by a girl she describes as naughty-headed and says that the girl would get mad every time she looked at her. She also says that the kids at school would tell her not to get too conceited about her looks because they knew a lot more about her conception than she did. Colorism and the plight of being black in the early 1900s are themes in the book, but not in the movie whatsoever. I mean, not even a little bit. I guess when it came to that, the writer said,
I'm here to tell you right now, We don't care.
Let me tell you.
We don't care.
And we'll get into why I believe they didn't care in a little bit. Anywho, back to the movie. Janie starts talking about the day she became conscious of her own life. One day when she was 16, laying underneath a pear tree, watching things bloom and blossom around her, that's when life really took meaning for her. In the moment when Janie sees things like a bee pollinating a flower, I've always interpreted it as her discovering herself. In the book, she talks about how she looked around and found a personal answer for all creations except her. While researching, because your girl was trying to do some research for this. While researching, I noticed that many people interpret this moment as Janie discovering an idolized view of love through nature, but I never read or saw this moment and immediately thought she was subtly concerned with romantic love. I always and still see it as a 16-year-old girl really realizing that she's alive and trying to piece together what that means for her. To me, Janie doesn't discover herself because of her experiences with men. She discovers herself through her experiences with them, if that makes any sense. Anyways, in the wake of discovering herself, Janie sees a boy she knows by the name of Johnny Taylor, and one thing leads to another and they start kissing. Her grandmother Nanny, played by Ruby Dee, sees this and things go from 0 to 100 real quick. Janie! Now, I really need to explain what happens next as it was written in the book with as many details as I can, because what they decide to do with it in the movie is a bit interesting. Now, in the book, Nanny doesn't show any anger towards Janie for what she saw. She's more sad than anything because she equates the kiss to Janie discovering her womanhood, which is not an out of bounds conclusion. And today, the most Janie would probably get is a good talking to. We're currently in a real different time, so Nanny tells Janie that she's a woman now and she wants to see her get married. Married? Of course, Janie doesn't understand how one little kiss could mean she's ready for something as insane as marriage, because my girl was just trying to catch a vibe with Johnny Taylor. Nothing more, nothing less. But these ain't catching a vibe times. I thank God in the universe every single day that I'm a woman of the now. I wouldn't have made it back then, because what you mean just because of one little funky kiss you think it's time for me to get married at 16? Relax! Understandably, Janie tells Nanny that she doesn't know anything about marriage or a husband, but Nanny says what she just saw was plenty enough for her. She tells Janie that she doesn't want some trashy N-word with the hard ER like Johnny Taylor using her body to wipe his feet on. In the book, Nanny is very remorseful and she wants Janie to get married because in her mind, that's the best way for Janie to be safe when she's no longer here. She brings up some old nasty freak named Logan Keelix who's been asking after Janie, a child, and deems him as a good enough man for Janie to start a life with. In the book, Nanny does end up slapping Janie for a pound, but then she holds her in her arms on her lap like she used to do when Janie was younger. Nanny cries in the midst of Janie that it's not Logan Keelix she really wants for her, it's protection. Nanny expresses that she couldn't love Janie more if she felt the pain of birthing her herself. In fact, she tells Janie that she loves her more than she loves her own daughter, Janie's mother. And again, all of this is because she wants to make sure Janie will be okay before she dies. Then we learn more about Nanny's past and why and how she developed her mindset. Nanny was a slave who was assaulted by her owner, and that's how Janie's mother, Leafy, came about. One day, while Leafy was just 1 week old and Nanny was bedridden, the master left the plantation because his son had been killed, and this is when his wife took it upon herself to confront Nanny about some shit she already knew the answer to. She goes to Nanny and wants to know why the child she birthed has gray eyes and yellow hair. Bitch, why you think? And to make a long story short, out of jealousy, the master's wife tells Nanny that she's going to sell her baby and have her whipped until blood is running down her heels. This prompts Nanny to escape from the plantation while her body is still healing, but that's the last thing on her mind. Nanny hides in the woods with Leafy for days, and by the grace of God, she doesn't get caught. Her escape occurred around the time Big Abe somewhat freed the slaves, so she became free. Well, as free as you could be in those times. After that, Nanny got with some good white people in West Florida, her words not mine, and she never got married. Making a decent life for Leafy became her sole priority. Leafy was raised much like Janie, with help from the whites that Nanny worked for, and Nanny put her in school when there was a school for black children. One day when Leafy was 17, she didn't come home from school and never returned that night. It turns out that the school teacher had kidnapped Leafy and kept her in the woods all all night, assaulting her, and then he ran off. After Janie was born, Leafy took to drinking to most likely cope with her trauma, and she later ran off too. Nanny says she knows Leafy isn't dead because she can feel it, but Nanny, as you can probably tell, tried to do with Janie what she feels she failed to do with Leafy, and Janie's kiss with Johnny Taylor scared her into thinking Janie would somehow follow the path of her mother, and the last thing Nanny wants is for Janie to allow men, white or black, to use and abuse her. So she tells Janie to put her down easy, which basically means marry Logan Keelix, a man with 60 acres, which is kind of like being in the NFL in these times, I guess, so she'll have peace of mind. In the movie, however, Nanny is angry with Janie for allowing Johnny Taylor to kiss her.
What is wrong with you? Ain't nothing wrong with me, Nanny.
When Janie tells her that they weren't doing anything, Nanny says that Janie was allowing Johnny Taylor to wipe his feet on her. In the book, Nanny does say to Janie that the N word with the hard ER, woman, is the mirror of the world, but as I stated, they avoid all the racial things, so they just have Nanny say that the woman is the mirror of the world. And then it goes back to me saying that they made Janie a little bit dizzy. In the book, she stated that she didn't know anything about marriage or a husband. Our girl was shook at the thought. In the movie, when Nanny tells Janie that she's going to get married right away, they got that girl saying,
To Johnny Taylor?
No, child.
please. And the only mention of Leafy, Janie's mother, we get is when Janie says she's not ready to get married, and Nanny responds by saying,
So you don't want to marry off decent like that. You want to be like your mama was. You want to run wild, break my heart.
huh? You mean turn to drinking and do what you gotta do to cope with the trauma of having a baby by a man who kept you in the woods all night or song you? That's an insane way to spin it. If you watch this movie with no idea about the book, they leave you thinking Janie's mother is just out there in the world living it up. Anyways, Nanny tells Janie about Logan Keelix and his 60 acres.
I don't care what he got.
This is when Janie runs off and jumps in some water while saying in her narration that Nanny took the horizon and pinched it into a little bit of a thing. Then she floats and watches God, something Janie does not do in the book.
Janie, what in the world are you doing?
I'm watching God.
Then we get to the next stage in Janie's life, her marriage to Logan Keelix.
Miss Janie.
In the movie, we never see Nanny again, but in the book, Janie does visit her one last time before she dies. Janie basically goes to her because as a 16-year-old girl who really doesn't know anything about the world, when Nanny told her she would eventually love Logan, she took it to heart, and now she's wondering where the hell that love's at. Janie wants to feel how she felt laying underneath that pear tree. But Nanny can't tell Janie about something she's never experienced herself. Nanny came up in the world in a way that all she knows is survival. Worrying about love is silly to her. In her mind, you don't marry for love, you marry for security. In her mind, the best thing a black woman in her time can hope for is a man with 60 acres. So what the hell is Janie complaining about for real? But Nanny loves Janie so much that after she leaves, she prays until she's in pain, telling God she's done all she can, and now she's leaving the rest up to him, and then she dies a month later. But Janie leaves that conversation knowing that marriage does not mean love, and she says that's when she really became a woman. In the movie, we cut to Janie's life with Logan Keelix, and he got her out in the field, something Janie in the book was not going for. In the book, she basically tells him that if he's expecting her to do manual labor, then he must not be expecting dinner.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
What the movie does with Janie's time with Logan Keelix makes me feel like they slick gave her the personality of a Disney princess, whimsical, forced to do manual labor, putting caterpillars on her face. Then when Logan leaves to go into town, they have her free that man's pigs, and that's how she meets Joe Starks, the man who will soon be her second husband.
Pretty lady like you need to be treated like a lady every single day of your life.
Of course, in the book, how Janie meets Joe is a little different, but it's not that important, I guess. The point is that now Janie has a new man in her life that's got her thinking about the horizon and what's beyond it again. She and Joe start talking, and he tells her that he's headed to Edenville, an all-colored town that's in the making. Joe says that he plans to get there while the town is still a baby, and Janie tells him that it sounds like a tall tale.
Maybe you need to come with me and see it.
In the book, Joe and Janie talk for a couple days before she realizes she might want to run off with him. She says he doesn't represent sun up, pollen, and blooming trees, but he speaks for the far horizon, change, and chance. As I stated, she was more sensible in the book. In the movie, they make it a day. Well, not even really a day. She talks to that man for 3 minutes and suddenly has in her mind she might want to run off with him.
Tomorrow after the sun come up, and we'll be waiting on you.
Later that night in bed with Logan, Janie asks him what he would do if she were to leave him.
I got 60 acres. When I pass, everything I got passes to you.
Man, don't nobody care about them 60 acres, especially when you rolling over in the bed like that. The next day, Janie ups and leaves Logan, saying that even if Joe isn't waiting for her, the change is bound to do her some good. Now, Zora didn't write Janie's departure from Logan so quickly like that. She actually woke up with him the next day and was trying to carry on as usual until he tried to get her to come outside and help him in the yard. That's when shit went downhill and my girl said, deuces. Anyways, then we get to the next stage in Janie's life, her marriage to Joe Starks.
And I became Mrs. Joe Starks.
I'll say that the movie basically stays somewhat true to what occurred during her time with Joe. Well, they got the gist of it. He marries a 17-year-old Janie with the hope of making her his trophy wife, but she doesn't know it yet. He buys her a ton of nice things so that she's looking all dressed up like him for their arrival in Edenville. When they get there, Joe's a bit disgusted with how much progress has been made.
This don't look like nothing but a raw place in the woods. We only been in town for about a year.
But Janie tells him that a place that's just getting started has a lot to look forward to. Something she doesn't say in the book because she was disappointed with the progress of the town too, but whatever. Terrence Howard, who I believe is messy in everything he's in, is the reason Joe shows an insecurity that he has with Janie that will later be a fatal flaw in their marriage. Terrence's character Amos Hicks assumes that Janie is Joe's daughter rather than his wife, and Joe takes offense to this.
Amos Hicks is my name, and I ain't got no wife as yet. And I ain't nowhere near old enough to have a daughter, Mr. Hicks.
Stop the cap.
But what do you really expect when you do something nasty like marrying a 17-year-old? You think niggas just gonna assume that's your wife, old man?
Stop it. Get some help.
Now, in the book, Joe hits the ground running, and quite a few pages are just about the things he was given credit for accomplishing for the town.
Y'all want this to be a town of significance, don't you?
You know, he became one of those people who weren't really a part of the manual labor. He just looked up and found a group of people who needed directing, and he possessed the money and the mindset to direct them. That's how he became the mayor of Eatonville. But before we get to that point in the movie, they give us a scene with Janie where she's basically stroking his ego. He's calling the town's people lazy for not having accomplished more in the 1 year they've been in town, and she tells him that maybe they just needed him. Then Joe tells Janie once the town is where he wants it to be, he's gonna buy her own train car and they're gonna crisscross the country first class. Some shit he does not say to her in the book. Anyways, we cut to Joe buying more acres, which leads into a montage of them building up the town. And the more the town gets accomplished and the more notoriety Joe gets, the more he becomes who he truly is, especially with Janie. A day comes when a big celebration for the town is coming up, and Janie and the other ladies are trying on their dresses for the event. The point is that the ladies made a dress for Janie to wear, but then Joe comes home with a dress he ordered
from the finest ladies store in Orlando.
Janie tries to tell him about the dress that was made by the ladies of the town and expresses how much she would like to wear it, but he don't give a damn about that. He tells Janie that the dress isn't befitting of a mayor's wife and that she's the bell cow and the other women are her gang. Something he does say to her in the book, but for a whole nother reason, because this scene doesn't occur in the book. Whatever. We get to the event, which just turns out to be a bad night for Janie. First, she overhears some of the other ladies talking about how the dress they made must not have been good enough for her.
I reckon the dress we done made ain't good enough for Mrs. Mayor Stark. Yeah. What you over here being messy for?
Then while Joe is on stage giving a speech about how happy he feels that Edenville is now the first incorporated colored town in America, Terrence/Amos's messy ass suggests that Janie should give a speech. Joe quickly shuts that down before she can even get a word out her mouth, saying that she don't know nothing about no speech making.
But Mrs. Mayor Starks don't know nothing about no speech making. I didn't marry her for nothing like that.
Did you even let her try, Joe? Damn. That night, Joe asks Janie how she likes being Mrs. Mayor.
It's all right, I reckon.
All right. You ought to be glad.
She tells him that it keeps them in kind of a screen and she'll be glad when it's over.
Oh, girl, I ain't even got started good.
Then we get to the point where Joe starts becoming a grouchy, possessive old man who takes his frustrations out on Janie.
Everybody can't be like you, Jody. Folks is bound to laugh and play.
I can't believe I'm just now mentioning how much significance her hair has, but yeah, it was pretty important in the book and the movie. But forget all that. Who did Holly's hair? That shit is seamless, and I always thought that every time I watch this movie because I don't think that's Holly's real hair. So who did that? I need to talk to him. Anyways, in the movie, when Joe tells Janie to cover up her hair, she attempts to leave him in a real dramatic scene that doesn't happen in the book.
You didn't have nothing when I met you, and you have less than nothing when you leave me.
In the book, you get insight into Joe's head and you learn how insanely jealous he was. He didn't want her hair showing in the store because he's seen other men wallowing in it. And when a character who wasn't Amos Hicks, it was a nigga named Walter, touched her hair without her knowing, he wanted to chop that man's hand off. And in his mind, Joe knew what he should do and say, but his pride wouldn't let him because he felt like just being the mayor's wife should have been enough for her. For example, there was this real skinny mural in the book that a lot of times people made fun of and physically teased at times. Janie didn't like it and thought they ought to leave the poor creature alone, something she expressed out loud around Joe. Based on that, he actually bought the mural without saying anything to her about it and allowed it to live out its last days in comfort. But then he would turn around and do stuff like when the townspeople decided to get together and have a funeral for that mural when it died, he didn't allow Janie to attend it. So while everybody else in town, including him, was off having a jolly good time at that mock funeral, Janie was left in town running a store that most likely nobody was showing up to because everybody was at the funeral. Then Joe had the audacity to get back to the store after everything, feeling resentment towards Janie for being upset, like he really thought just being married to him should have fulfilled all her needs. Sir, please. Anyways, then in the movie, we get a montage of Janie losing and hiding pieces of herself to become the wife that Joe wants. He puts her on a schedule: breakfast at dawn, lunch at noon, and dinner by 6.
I had an inside and an outside now, and I knew how not to mix them.
Before Janie knows it, 20 years have flown by, and in the book, she starts to notice that Joe ain't looking as hip as he used to. He sees it too, and this is when he starts piling everything on her and talking about her age to deflect from it. The more his back aches and his muscles grow weaker, the more irritated he gets with Janie for not seeming to age. But sir, what do you expect when you marry a child that you were about 12, 13, I think maybe 15 years older? You think you gonna stay hip with her? No, that's not how that works.
Stop it. Get some help.
Then this is when we get to the point in the movie where Janie's relationship with Joe completely shatters. In the store, Joe's hands are shaking and he's dropping things and blaming them on Sean Nelson's character, Hezekiah, who also works there.
Well, what is wrong with you? You got a sandbag in your head where your brain should be.
Then Lockdown New Jersey Drive's character Sam comes into the store and he wants Joe to cut him some tobacco, and Janie sees Joe's hands shaking and offers to do it, you know, trying to save face for him. Sam jokes about Janie's cutting skills, and this is when Joe decides to use it as an opportunity to get on Janie's neck.
And you be around this store till you old as Methuselah. And you still won't be to learn how to do nothing.
Whoa, big guy. You sound like you're a little frustrated and mad.
But the thing is, our girl ain't going for it today, so they start going back and forth.
Nearly 40. Ain't nobody looking at you old as you is.
Well, I ain't 40. I'm only 38. You ways past 50.
One thing leads to another, and I think she said that man's Peter Whacker was small.
But ain't nothing big about you but your voice. Pull down your britches and it look like you done hit the change of line.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
You say to me,
You heard her, you ain't blind.
I'd better be shot dead than hear that about my own self.
Yeah. What you over here being messy for?
Well, Joe turned on that stove and couldn't handle the heat, so he ends up putting hands on Janie in front of everybody. But in the book, it wasn't the first time he hit her, so the aftermath between the book and the movie is different. In the book, Joe moves into a different room while they still share the same house. In the movie, Janie moves out. But we still end up at point B, Joe's impending death. In the book, when he gets sick, he becomes even meaner to Janie. He stops eating her food, causing everybody to conclude he thinks Janie was poisoning him. He He allows everybody in a moment to come see him but Janie, which is insane because she was the only person who truly had his best interest at heart, because in the book, after a while, the townspeople couldn't stand him. They respected him, but they didn't like him. In the book and movie, Janie and Joe have one final conversation before he dies, where he remains hell-bent on hating her right to the very end.
I hope that thunder and lightning.
Like, sir, what did she do for you to hate her this much? I read the book. I watched the movie. That lady ain't do none of him. Anyways, Joe dies right there in that moment. I don't care. Janie don't care. The audience don't care. Nah, I'm playing. I'm pretty sure somebody cares.
I was feeling something else. I was feeling free.
Then we get to the final stage in Janie's life, her time with Tea Cake in the movie, but her third marriage in the book. And we finally get to why the colorism and racial issues didn't seem to matter to the writers, why they didn't mention Janie's childhood, why Nanny and Leafy's backgrounds didn't get any attention, while even though she was married to Logan Killicks for about a year, his part of the story only got about 8 minutes of screen time, while even though she was married to Joe Starks for 20 years, his time with her got packed into about 30 minutes because they were eager to turn her time with Tea Cake into a sexy, sensual love story, when in the book, it was nothing of the sort. Ooh, child.
Lord Jesus.
First of all, in the book, Tea Cake is described as a dark-skinned black man with purple lips, which means he's very chocolatey, you know, very dark-skinned. Baby, they give us Micah Ealy, because the whole point of this movie was to get her to Tea Cake so they could make this shit sexy. And my little slow ass just ate it up. In the movie, they give you a real cute little tragic love story. Janie is in the store by herself while most of the town is gone to a ball game. Then enters fine-ass Tea Cake, hot and sweaty. Ooh. Janie's panties are obviously moist as she rushes to the counter to serve him. There's instant attraction and chemistry as Janie asks Tea Cake why he isn't at the ball game where everybody else in town is.
Well, not everybody. The lady just sold me some cigarettes.
Woo. One thing leads to another and they end up outside where Tea Cake teaches her how to play checkers. There is so much sexual tension between them as they share one crisp Coke and she finally learns his name.
Tea Cake, huh? You as sweet as all that?
You try me and see.
Ooh. Then Tea Cake makes sure she gets home safe, but before they depart, he just can't help but put his hands on her in some way, shape, or form. The next day, Janie is weighing in anticipating seeing a young man who stirs something inside her. Around him, she's acting different. The town people are baffled. Then Tea Cake walks her home again, but this time it's nighttime, more intimate, more sensual.
I'm hungry.
I got some pound cake.
I got some lemonade.
Then Tea Cake slices the lemon and holds it up to Janie's mouth.
Taste.
I done tasted a lemon before.
But baby, you ain't never tasted one from the hands of a man that looks like Michael Ealy. Have you seen your previous husbands? That's what the writers were getting at. Ooh. So we quickly fall into Tea Cake's and Janie's love story. The movie's timeline is so unclear and all over the place because Halle Berry goes from 16 to about 40 with no physical changes whatsoever. So I don't know how long it's been in the movie, but now we're at the point where Janie is real comfortable with having Tea Cake in her house. They go fishing at night, then they go back in the house and have a real sexy, sensual time together. They eat, he plays the piano for her. One thing leads to another. He starts kissing all up on her. But Janie is hesitant because she's nearly 12 years older than Tea Cake, so in her head, she's like, why does a man his age want me? But Tea Cake is very persistent and open about his feelings for her.
What I'm saying is, well, you sort of got me at your mercy.
Ooh. Then Janie says to him the one thing that always leaves me cackling anytime I watch this movie. She tells that man he's only expressing his feelings for her because the fish and cornbread tasted real good.
You don't know nothing about love. You just saying that because the fish and cornbread tasted real good, ain't you?
Then she tells him that these are just his nighttime thoughts. So Tea Cake leaves and comes back the next morning so she can hear his daytime thoughts.
Well, I'm on to tell you my daytime thoughts, seeing as how you don't trust my nighttime ones.
Ooh. Oh, my girl is a goner after that. The townspeople are hanged, but they can't tell her nothing about her man. And before you know it, Janie is ready to run off with Tea Cake.
I'm never getting married again. But I am gonna run off with her.
You're gonna end up like Annie Tyler.
A woman who lived in Edenville and then ran off with some young dude who stole all her money, leaving her with no choice but to return to town busted and disgusted.
Well, I love TK, and I'm gonna be with her.
Gonna make a fool out of you.
The night before she's due to leave with TK, she does seem kind of stressed out about it, but all he has to do is give her some of his sweet kisses to make her sure again.
You got the keys to the kingdom, girl.
Woo. After leaving town with TK, they end up at some nightclub where they give us some sensual sexiness. Then they end up back in their hotel room where they give us some more sensual sexiness. I mean, a whole lot. Like, you really see the angle they were going with this movie. Woo. But then the next morning, Janie wakes up with tea cake and the $200 she brought with her nowhere in sight. He leaves her in that room damn near losing her mind all night and doesn't show back up until the next morning talking about he went gambling with her money.
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
Now y'all's gonna walk out of here with a few hundred and walk back in here with a few grand.
Janie grabs her things and says she's not going to let him make a fool out of her, but she folds rather quickly when she sees that he's injured.
You can't drag me down. All you got to give me.
Then they lay in the bed together and TK tells Janie about a place that he thinks they should go to called the Everglades.
There's this place down in the Everglades. Beautiful and wild. Plenty of work here and fun.
Janie offers up her pocketbook for them to get transportation there, like that man just then run off with 200 of her dollars and then come back with nothing, not even his own car. But TK tells her to keep her money because now they'll only be living off what he makes.
If I ain't got nothing, you don't got nothing.
Then Janie and TK go to the Everglades, which they refer to as the muck in the book. And I swear to y'all, the storyline zooms right on by after that. More sensual, sexy time. A storm that leaves it being just them against the world.
I was fumbling around in the dark, got open the door, and there you was.
A affected dog with rabies, a bite. Then Janie has to shoot the love of her life to save herself. I mean, it happens quick. They zoom right on past it. But do I really need to say that it didn't happen quite like that in the book? Do I really need to say that they over-romanticized and sexed up Janie's time with Tea-Cake, even though it was no better than her time with Logan Keelix and Joe Starks? Do I? I must. But let's just focus on the major stuff, I guess. They stay pretty true to how Tea-Cake and Janie meet, but they over-sexualize the encounter. Truthfully, they over-sexualize a lot of what happens between them, like the lemon scene, but hey, it gets us from point A to point B. Janie decided she wants to take a leap and leave town with Tea-Cake. Except in the book, she actually marries him. Janie does end up in a hotel room with Tea-Cake where he disappears with her money, but in the book, he just shows up the next night with his guitar, the only instrument he played, and he tells her where the money went with no real problems between them for him taking it. This man says he spotted her money, counted how much it was, and decided he wanted to know what it felt like to be a millionaire with her money. He talks about how he went off and paid for a big chicken and macaroni dinner and had a party where he was at the door paying the unattractive women not to come in with her money. I have to tell y'all, this scene in the book is so fucking hilarious to me, because what do you mean you went out and had a ball with my money and didn't even come to get me? Then he has the nerve to tell Janie he thought about coming to get her, but he didn't know if it would be her scene or not. With my goddamn money, you damn Skippy is gonna be my scene. Oh, staying with him after that is the dissiest thing she did in the book, because what? But I do have to give Book Tea-Cake just a little credit, because he does go get her money back in blood, and he gives it back to her and tells her to put it in the bank with the rest of her money, and this is when he tells her they're going to live off what he makes. Then they go to the muck, and a lot of stuff happens there that they chose to leave out the movie. Kind of like in Edenville, there are a lot of characters who aren't mentioned at all, but the main thing that they left out that had 12 or 13-year-old me clutching her pearls is that Jada and Tea-Cake were going upside each other's heads. The first mention of physical violence between them in the book is because of a girl named Nookie who Janie felt had a thing for Tea-Cake. She was always picking with him. Then one day Nookie took Tea-Cake's work tickets and ran off with them, leaving him to chase after her. Janie Janie caught them wrestling on the ground and asked them what was going on. Then she went back home. When TK got there trying to talk about it, all Janie had was hands for him. And then one thing led to another, and they ended up butt naked on the floor. Too grown for me. The second time is linked to a lady named Mrs. Turner, who doesn't make an appearance in the movie at all, but if she did, it would have all made more sense. Mrs. Turner was a mixed woman who had a strong hatred for black people, who took a liking to Janie because she was mixed too. Long story short, she didn't think TK, being a dark-skinned black man, was worthy of Janie. So she thought Janie would make a better fit with her brother, who was coming to visit the muck real soon. TK overheard Mrs. Turner talking crazy about him and just black people in general, all the while trying to push her brother on Janie. He couldn't stand her after that. So when Mrs. Turner's brother came to the muck, he laid hands on Janie, not because she did anything to deserve it, his words not mine, but because it reassured him and everyone around them that Janie was his possession. But the Mrs. Turner storyline makes things make more sense when TK has rabies and becomes paranoid that Janie is messing with another man. In the book, he thinks it's Mrs. Turner's brother. In the movie, they throw out the name of a character that they really never gave any screen time. So why in the hell would that man conclude that Janie was messing with him?
He's gonna run off a motorboat, ain't you? Tell the truth, you tired of waiting on him. Do it for me.
Now we are close to the end of the book and close to the end of the movie, but there are a few interesting things I just want to say before wrapping things up. TK and Janie were not alone when the storm hit, so what you see in the movie is completely different. TK actually got bit on the face by the dog, and it took a few months before he even got any real symptoms, which is why when they realized he had it, it was way too late. And after Janie shoots TK, she actually goes on trial for his murder. My bitch was real close to spending the rest of her life in prison. Then the part that really sticks out to me and really gives me the feels in the book, and I feel like I just need to say something about it. When Joe Starks died, Janie dressed in all black and looked the part at his funeral. At TK's funeral, which she paid for and buried him with his guitar, she wore overalls because she was too busy feeling grief to dress like grief. That sounds sad as fuck. Anyways, the book basically ends with Janie being content with life, and the movie ends with her watching God. I got one question for anybody who made it this far. Y'all think Zora was Shaun? Let me be serious. I love Their Eyes Are Watching God, the movie. I'm pretty sure there's a picture of it down there somewhere on his wall. And I got the DVD. I got this like a long time ago. Came with Beloved, so they gave your girl a 2-for-1 special, period. But I gotta be real. If you compare the movie to the book, they took all the realness out of it. Like I said, they took their lady work and made a sexy, sensual love story. And I just feel like Oprah could have got those same writers and they could have made a sexy, sensual love story starring Halle Berry and Michael Ealy, and Zora Neale Hurston's work didn't have to be not a part of it. Like, it didn't have to be a part of it at all, but they made it a part of it. And Oprah sat down and she said that wherever that lady was in the world, well, not the world, because she's obviously not with us anymore, wherever she was in the universe, she was gonna give a shout when she saw it. You know, I've seen that part so many times. where Oprah said that lady was gonna shout, and I didn't think nothing of it until I decided to do this video. Like I said, I've always, in the back of my mind, knew that I was gonna talk about Their Eyes Are Watching God, because like I said, I always felt like it was underrated and not in the conversation enough. So I was gonna shine a little light on it on, my little corner of the YouTube. I was really gonna get up here and, take up for the movie. I was like, Destiny, reread the book with some sense. So, I got my Kindle that I got on my lap, and no, my Kindle is not as fancy as the other girls. I just got a little pink thingy with some stickers on it and some hanging out the back. The girls' Kindles be looking so good, and I'm trying to be like that, but we'll figure it out. But anyway, I got on my Kindle and I bought the book. It's like $1. It was like $1. So I bought it. I was like, okay, it's $1. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have the book for the rest of my life. Cool. And I read it, and as I read it, I don't see Their Eyes Was Watching God as a love story. Like, it's not a love story to me. It's not a romance book to me. It's a testament of being a black woman in the early 1900s, and I feel like it's an important story to tell because it's somebody's story. Like, and they just took it and they made it sexy and sensual. I don't hate the movie. I can't bring it. I don't hate the movie. I can't put that in my heart. Damn, without the movie, would I have discovered the book? I ain't gonna lie. No, probably not though. Like, probably not. Because the only reason I picked up the book that day in class was because I probably had just recently watched There I Was Watching God. So I was like, I'm probably gonna watch it again, you know, a couple months from now. I love the movie. But at the same time, I now accept that compared to the book, they played. And as a person who cares about literature and care about people's stories, like I feel like Zora Neale Hurston wrote this story because that's the story she wanted to be out in the world. And for them to take her story and not, you know, stay true. I'm not saying they had to make it exactly like the book, but you can tell that they just wanted to make it sexy. And I don't think this is a story you take and make sexy. You don't take a book about a black woman in the early 1900s who I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe you can take that to make it sexy. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know much.